July, it's on its way out, and that means we're getting ever closer to fantasy hockey draft season, baby. And you're tapped in to the latest episode of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Our NHL-wide breakdown rolls into Toronto, and these Maple Leafs at a tipping point. Let's get this paper.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Buckle up, and here we go, hockey heads. Happy Monday, and welcome back inside the lab to the latest edition of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Massive shout out, salute to the everydayers holding us down, making us your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel Sportsbook. The summer, she's still heating up, and FanDuel's hooking up all customers daily with a bonus or boost. That's right, there's something for everyone every day all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Steele, I got to keep this preamble short and sweet because today's episode is going to be jam-packed. We always try and get you guys in and out in 30 minutes or less so you can get back to your busy lives, but we're also always going to bring that fantasy fire and the angles that you need. We're halfway through the NHL, Steele. 16 teams down, 16 to go. We're taking a look at the Toronto Maple Leafs, and you and I are going to do our best to try and keep it tight and focused on fantasy because let me just get this out of the way now then. This franchise had an opportunity to clean house top to bottom. It decided to not do that. Changes have come behind the bench. Mark Savard in there, Lane Lambert in there, and of course, Craig Berube. Not getting rid of Brendan Shanahan after 10 years of losing, Steele, has me a little hot under the collar. So let me just get that out of the way first and foremost because the narratives with this team have been covered. The core four, inability to get it done. Can't get it done against Boston. Matthews isn't the guy. Trade Mitch. Wall's injury woes. We've talked about it all. So let's put that aside and let's talk about the fantasy pieces because right off the top five, absolute darling, absolute gem, and I'm not here for any Auston Matthews slander. He comes in as the slam dunk number one on this team and the best goal scorer in the NHL today.
Best goal scorer since Alexander Ovechkin. That's surprising to say, even though Alexander Ovechkin's still in the NHL right now, and he's less than 45 goals away from breaking Wayne Gretzky's career. Yep. And breaking that NHL history that we're all dying to see right now. But it's incredible watching Auston Matthews play and the way he shoots the puck, the way he's able to change the angles very, very so slightly, but very quickly to fool the goaltenders, to fool the defenders, and get ready for every single shot attempt that he can possibly have. You're absolutely right. There's no question about it. He is the number one slam dunk Toronto Maple Leaf player that you're going to be targeting off the board first from this Maple Leafs roster. He's a first round pick. He's in the top five pick. He's in the top five for draft. You know, again, there's some wiggle room where you can, draft him, but he's in that area. Yep. Connor McDavid first, Nathan McKinnon second, Nikita Kucherov third, perhaps. That's where Matthews would fall in right there at the number 4, number 5 position for me. I know David Pastrnak's also in the mix, but
don't forget Leon Draisaitl.
Leon Draisaitl, of course. So he's in that mix right there of 4 to 6. I'm comfortable taking him at number 4. I'm also comfortable taking him at number 6 when you bring in the rest of those guys that we just mentioned. But it's incredible to watch this player every single time in a Maple Leafs uniform. Career high 107 points last year. Career high 69 goals. He continued to do a career high plus 31. Career high even strength goals with 51 even strength goals. Like, it wasn't even, we talk about some players getting a lot of it done on the power play. We talk about Nikita Kucherov. We talk about JT Miller. We talk about, Connor McDavid, even though Connor McDavid still gets so many even strength points. Auston Matthews does it 5-on-5 hockey.
I like that you got that slight JT Miller plug.
Yeah, I got
that was sneaky, and I appreciate it.
But he does.
Right,
He's a power play juggernaut out there for the Vancouver Canucks. But Auston Matthews does it 5-on-5, and he does it on the power play as well. He continues to impress every single season. That's why he's leading this team. He had a full 81 games last year, just missed one regular season game for the Maple Leafs, but you got to love the peripherals on top of that. 90 hits, 93 blocks, 369 shots. He finished 4th in fantasy hockey points last year. That's why he's a top 5 pick. He comes in at 4 for me and number 1 off the board for the Maple Leafs.
My goodness me, Steele. And also, this guy's rounded out his two-way game so nicely. 14th in Selke a year ago, third in Selke voting last year, fourth in Hart
So
voting.
good.
Just all around now, Auston Matthews has rounded out his game to be one of the best two-way players in the game as well. And that's where I don't think he gets nearly enough credit. There are a lot of angles to cover with this team. And the rest of this list, I think it's going to be a pretty clear-cut one for the most part. But there are a little bit, there's some intangibles. We could swap them in and out. When you're looking at Auston Matthews, 69 goals, you'd mentioned all the peripherals. How about 53% in the face-off dot steal? How about takeaway giveaway numbers? Also almost 2-1 for takeaways to giveaways. Just doing it all and putting his team on his back. And look, I said tipping point off the start of the show. Not going to dive into it too much more other than this team pulsates and runs through Auston Matthews. 34 goes, this team goes. All the other question marks that you could throw out there is not one here with number 34. And there are a lot of haters come out, a lot of different angles come at this team. And I'm usually here to discuss all of them at length if you're going to make good points, even if you are hating on the team. There is no hate to go at this player. He is so good at both ends of the ice now. He is a game changer, and he is the best shooter in the game. Slam dunk number one, Steele, but let's move on to a little bit more of a conversation if you're okay with it, because you and I are going to be talking about Auston Matthews at multiple points during this season. That's just how important he is to the Leafs. However, who you looking at number two? I'm intrigued for this rest of this list.
Yeah, this is a very interesting conversation to have with the number two guy for the Toronto Maple Leafs, because when you look at both William Nylander and Mitch Marner, obviously there's a lot of emotions towards Mitch Marner after the postseason he just had, and a lot of great positive emotions to William Nylander, what he did in the regular season, plus coming back in the playoffs after the migraine situation. So
Game 6 winner.
Game 6 winner. I think we're looking at two players regardless who are going to get taken in the second round of the draft. So we're going to see Auston Matthews taken in the first round. I believe we're going to see both Mitch Marner and William Nylander taken in the second round. That's how good they are fantasy-wise. And it's interesting because when you look at what Mitch Marner did in the regular season last year, he missed 13 games and still had 85 points.
Yeah.
You got to love what he brings on a playmaking perspective of what he does for the game on the power play, 5-on-5. He's setting up his teammates, 26 goals, 59 assists last year for a total of 85 points. Obviously, that's a dip. That's a dip down from the 99 points he had the year prior. But yet again, he missed 13 games this prior season. The peripherals you would like to see a little bit higher. You would like to see his shots over 200, which he hasn't hit over the last two seasons. He's only taken over 200 shots twice in his 8-year career so far. The peripherals, it's actually funny. He actually hits more than William Nylander, which is surprising to see. But 59 hits, 51 blocks, that helps in the peripheral category every now and again. But it's really the points, the power play points, the goals, the assists. Yeah, the shots are decent. So
who you got at number two here? Or are you just saying they're both in at number two?
They're both in the second round. But personally, based off of what I've seen from William Nylander over the last two seasons now, especially last year, I'm going with William Nylander at the number two position. Back-to-back 40-goal-plus seasons.
Yes, sir.
He's done, over the last 3 years, he won 80 points in the 2021 season, 87 points, and now up to 98 points. Again, like I said, back-to-back 40-goal seasons. He's only missed one game in the last 3 years. Over 300 plus shots this last year. He loves to shoot the puck. Again, you're not really getting any blocks or hits out of him, but that does not matter when you've got everything else going for William Nylander. He's a second-round pick. I would put him at that 15, 16, 17 position right now. Mitch Marner also in that 17, 18, 19 position, but I'm going with William Nylander at number 2, Mitch Marner at number 3.
316 shots on net, Steele. That you love. How about 7 game-winning goals? You love that too. I know some leagues have game winners in there. I don't exactly love that stat myself 100%. It can be a very fluky statistic. However, in William Nylander's case, I don't think it is because he's clutch. And when I looked at his playoff numbers as well, I know he had that head injury. There was a lot of hate out there against Willie as well. 43 points in 54 career postseason games for William Nylander. Lots more to talk about this team, Steele, including the new additions, the goaltending, the blue line, John Tavares' value, which is a very tough topic to discuss. Should Auston Matthews have the C headed into next year? I got to talk to Steele about that, but we also got to holler at our friends from FanDuel Sportsbook. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. We love sports. We love them so much. We're sportsin' all summer long, baby. And at FanDuel this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball.
And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Continue to hit the subscribe button, the follow button, leave a 5-star review. We appreciate all that love and support you show us. Make sure you go support the Locked On Sports Today YouTube channel. Hit the subscribe button. Make sure you also go check them out on the free Amazon Fire TV channel app. They're here for you 24/7, bringing you the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Today, we are actually talking about our favorite team, the Toronto Maple Leafs, on today's episode. The top 5 fantasy targets, potential breakout players, new additions.
It's been a while since we've spoke about this team, Steele.
Yes, it has been a while, but we're getting it done today, July 29th. We're getting it done at the end of July. We're getting into the beginning of August, summer season. We're in the prime right now. We're in the middle of it. Toronto Maple Leafs, though, they did a lot of offseason moves. You know, I don't believe any of those offseason moves are good enough to crack the top 5 fantasy targets for this Leafs team because we know who the top 5 are. You know, before we get to the number 4 position, I know you said you have William Nylander at number 2, Mitch Marner at number 3. I just want to hear you explain that a little bit more.
100% Steele, because look, what I saw from William Nylander in terms of his explosiveness, his shot, his comfort, and you mentioned the back-to-back 40-goal seasons. I guess I'm just reading into the energy and the positivity and the trajectory of what I've seen him do in terms of his offensive output. I know Mitch had that injury. I understand that there is a lot of hate thrown at him unnecessarily. I know that's a common theme with what I've been mentioning here, but it happens in this market, and it happens when you don't get it done in the manner that these guys have, and they make the money that they do. Fantasy-wise, they're all studs, but I'm putting it at Nylander at 2 because I just believe in him this season that much more. I don't know what all of this off-ice distraction is going to mean for Mitch Marner next season, Steele. It could mean he blows the doors off the league because he's motivated and he's tired of hearing it. Or it could be a distraction for a guy who we know hasn't exactly been the strongest between the ears. Between the boards, a stallion. But when it comes to the clutch moments, getting it done in the postseason, there are question marks there. So that's why I have it as I do. But let me get into the additions that you mentioned because it plays into my number 4 spot and why I have Morgan Rielly ahead of guys like Tavares, Woll, and otherwise. Because I think Chris Tanev on the back end, he doesn't crack the top 5 fantasy-wise. Maybe he's a week-to-week Banger League beauty if you need some block shots, perhaps, maybe a couple of PIMs. But this is going to free up Morgan Rielly. Now he has the best pairing in terms of the D-men he's ever played with, Steele. He's never had a guy as sound, as defensively responsible, stay-at-home style. He was playing with Ilya Lyubushkin. Now he has a guy who can actually play defense in the back end, hold it down, and allow Morgan Rielly to do his thing. So maybe I'm reading into this a little bit too much, but I don't think I am because 58 points last year for Mo, 173 shots. I know the peripherals were there too, 137 blocks, 98 hits. I think you're going to see an offensive bump from Morgan Rielly, Steele, based on the ability of Chris Tanev. He knows he's got his back. Big boys back there holding it down. Mo's going to be able to do his thing in the offensive zone. That's how I'm looking at it. That's why I have Rielly at 4.
Yeah, I mean, Morgan Rielly, for me, he cracks the top 5. I have him at the number 5 position. I do believe it would be a mistake to draft Morgan Rielly above John Tavares right now because I
Interesting.
understand, John. I understand exactly what you're saying, and I can't even disagree with it because I think that is going to free up Rielly's production in the offensive zone. He's going to be able to have a little bit more confidence and rely on
It's
his D
riskier
partner.
than taking Tavares. I agree with you.
It is riskier, and I go with John Tavares at number 4 for many reasons. I
Yeah, he's
understand
5
that
for me, so I'm with you.
John Tavares is, he's getting up there in age. He's going to be 34 years old at the start of the regular season in 2024, 2025. The points have taken a significant dip down. He went from 80 to 65 points in the last 2 years. I look at it this way. John Tavares, no matter what, he's giving you the peripherals. He's giving you everything you could ask for. Again, the points go down a little bit, but he's been a durable player over the last 8 seasons of his career. 82 games, 82 games, 63 games in that shortened season for COVID, a full 56 games in the shortened seasons of COVID. He missed 2 games in 2021 and 2 games last year and the year prior to that. So he misses maybe 2 or 3 games a season, not really more than that. Morgan Rielly has been dealing with significant injuries the last 2 years. That plays a part in for me.
Sure.
But these guys aren't far off from each other. Like for me, John Tavares falls in somewhere right now around that 5th to 6th round draft. I think you could easily take him at number 5. I think 65 points is on the lower end of what we can expect from John Tavares right now. I believe he's going to get back up to 70, 72 points this next year. It's a good-looking Leafs team now. Again, that's going to free up some more creativity in the offensive zone with bringing in everybody that Brad Treliving has brought in, especially on the blue line. Anthony Stolarz in the crease alongside Joseph Wall. I really like John Tavares. 200 back-to-back seasons of 275 plus shots. He's also got the hits in there, back-to-back seasons of 110 plus hits. The blocks, 36, 37 blocks. It is what it is, but you're really looking at him for the points, the shots, the hits. He brings the physicality, and you could say what you want, and I agree that maybe he is not the best captain and the leader right now for the Maple Leafs and what they need out of him, vocalizing his opinion, but regardless of that, I think he can still bring it fantasy-wise in the NHL level at 34 years old. He comes in at number 4 for me. He's somewhere in that 5th to 6th round is where I want to put him.
Yeah, I appreciate these angles, and I'm not here for the talk about his leadership style. Not like I know you're not bringing that up, but how people have. I'm not here for that. They're not in the dressing room. They don't understand what it means to be on an NHL ice surface for the most part. I think John Tavares is just a fine leader, in my opinion. However, maybe I'm reading into the Morgan Rielly, Chris Tanev angle a bit too much. Maybe I'm reading into his foot speed a bit too much, which is obviously a concern, especially in today's NHL. There's some intriguing angles here to still be discussed, Steele, including one you alluded to in the cage, Anthony Stolarz, Joseph Woll. These other additions, Oliver Ekman-Larsson. What is Yanni Hakanpää going to mean for this blue line steal? Is he going to play? He's not fantasy relevant, but some of these additions are going to have to step up. I'm actually looking at Oliver Ekman-Larsson as potentially a sneaky week-to-week add if he's going to start to eat secondary power play minutes, or who knows? I'm reading he might get a look on the top power play unit steal. Those are going to be some values. By the way, Morgan Rielly, John Tavares, 20 points each exactly on the power play last year. I want to talk about the special teams, though, Steele, right around the break. I want to talk about the goaltending very quickly and a breakout candidate that I think both you and I can agree on most definitely on that side of things.
There's so much to love about what went down in the offseason with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Maybe they don't target some of the bigger names. Some would agree, but I think regardless of how you look at it, they really did benefit from the offseason, going out and getting Chris Tanev, fixing the blue line.
I hope, yes. I'm nervous. I like your confidence. I'm not so sold, but I appreciate your positivity.
Look, I understand not being sold on it, but you bring in Chris Tanev, you bring in now a Stanley Cup champion and both Oliver Ekman-Larsson, and say what you want, but Anthony Stolarz is also a Stanley Cup champion as well.
That's a fact. It's a fact.
I do like what was done in the offseason.
Okay.
They keep the core 4 and they add around it in the depth. Maybe you get Easton Cowan in there in the bottom 6 group. Bobby McMann comes back from injury. We're going to talk about all of that and more right after the break. So much to dive into with the Toronto Maple Leafs team. It's all coming up next. Once again, thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Continue to hit the subscribe button, the follow button, leave a 5-star review. We appreciate all that love and support you show us Monday through Friday. 7 o'clock in the morning is when you can find our episodes. Flip, our top 5 targets for this Toronto Maple Leafs team remain the same. Slightly different at the number 4 and number 5 position, but we've got the same names in there. Auston Matthews, William Nylander, Mitch Marner, Morgan Rielly, and John Tavares are the top 5 targets from this Maple Leaf team that you're going to be going after in the draft this upcoming season. I believe they're all going to get drafted. Well, at least I don't know where Morgan Rielly would fall for me. He'd probably be somewhere in that 8th round, maybe 7th round on a high note, but they're all getting taken above the 9th round, in my opinion. They're all getting taken as the top 5
Pretty
fantasy
close,
targets. There's a lot of new additions to this team. There's some breakout candidates that I know you want to talk about, so I'll throw it over to you, my friend. There's a lot of young pieces on this team. There's also some goaltenders that we need to take a look in. One that you've actually bought into recently. So maybe we start there in the crease. How do you feel about Joseph Woll and Anthony Stolarz?
First and foremost, Joseph Woll, when he is in there, he has proven that he can be a number 1 goaltender on the level of a fantasy piece deal that is going to bring it for you across the board, because he is a very cerebral, calm goaltender. The main question has been covered at length with this guy. Can he stay healthy? And headed into this season, we don't need to actually go down that path because it's been covered so much. I'm looking at what that means for Anthony Stolarz. So would I still go at Joseph Woll? Yes, I would. But I would also be, if you miss out on him, find a target Anthony Stolarz in the back end of fantasy drafts, and let me explain. Because if Woll does go down, Stolarz is the guy immediately, and this Toronto Maple Leafs team, say what you will about them, say what you will about the first round and all of that, they are still going to get wins this year, and they still will put up tons of goals. They finished only 4 goals behind the Colorado Avalanche last year for tops in the entire NHL. 298 shots on net, the 7th best power play. The question all remains on that penalty kill steal. 25th in the NHL, not good enough. One of the reasons why Sheldon Keefe, it cost him his job. They couldn't get it done on the power play or penalty kill in the playoffs. Craig Berube comes in, Steele. You got to think that this team is going to be a little bit tougher, a little bit harder to play against, at least on paper, and I'll spit it out. I think Joseph Woll is still the guy I would look at. However, Anthony Stolarz, to me, I have written right here, could be sneaky, sneaky good. And if Woll goes down early and you happen to have Stolarz and he goes on a heater, you know that can be the kind of difference for teams at the top of the table in fantasy or the ones that miss out on the postseason.
I'm not afraid of drafting Anthony Stolarz as a third-string goaltender for my fantasy team.
I like it.
And I truly, going into this season, I do think the crease is up for grabs. I think we're going to see a split 50-50 for at least the first month and a half with the Maple Leafs. See who takes it. Honestly, I think it's open for the taking right now. And again, you bring in the Stanley Cup champion Anthony Stolarz after a really good season of backing up Sergei Bobrovsky. Yeah. You got to look at him as the real deal right now. He was phenomenal last year for the Florida Panthers. So I like both goaltenders. I'm taking a chance on either one of them as my third string goaltender. I think Joseph Woll will probably be taken above Anthony Stolarz in the draft, but I'm keeping an eye on Anthony Stolarz. He's getting written in the notebook when the draft season comes in.
And he should be. The one thing I will spit out, Steele, 16, 7, 7, and 2 shutouts, 203 goals against, and a 925 save percentage are sensational numbers. Yeah. However, he was playing behind Paul Maurice's defense that's loaded with studs and one of the best teams, actually the best team in the NHL, back to front, not the Toronto Maple Leafs, and a bunch of new pieces. So that has to be remembered just a little bit. However, I'm agreeing with you wholeheartedly. Let's just not forget how good of a team he had last year compared to what he has this year. Not the same, although sneaky good. I love the target, and I'm going to throw it right back to you. It's got to be Matty Knies for a breakout this year, right? Because this kid is going to get a real look in the top 6 all year long now. He got it done last year, 35 points, got it done in only 13 minutes of ice time. You know that's got to go up. He's primed for a breakout, and I really like this kid's overall frame and game.
Absolutely love this. I think the physicality of what he brings to this Maple Leafs team right now is exactly what they need out of a young guy. Matthew Knies, he's on the brink of being a banger league beauty.
Yes.
for this Maple Leafs team. 169 hits last year, 45 penalty minutes. He had a 13% shooting percentage with 15 goals, 35 points in 80 games. Would like to see him shoot the puck a little bit more, at least get up to 150. I know when you're playing with Auston Matthews and Mitch Marner, those two guys will most likely be taking most of the shots, but
Well,
regardless,
not Mitch,
you're going to have to.
yeah.
Mitch still gets up. He gets up there when he plays a full season. I know 150,
160
100,
last year or something. Yeah.
Yeah, so it wasn't enough. We need to see more
But I'm here
shot
for
on
the
that
pick.
from
I got you.
yeah, playmaker out of Mitch Marner, playmaker out of, not playmaker, but you get a little bit of both from Matthew Knies. Auston Matthews is going to be the one really shooting the puck for the most part on that top line. But I agree with you. He got 13 and a half minutes last year of average ice time. And again, you got to take into consideration, that was his first full season in the NHL regular season. He got brought up into the playoffs 2 years ago, and he was dominant. He was playing phenomenal for the Maple Leafs in that first round. You get him a full season in the NHL in the regular season, 35 points. He comes in and plays very great in the playoffs as well. Once again, I love Matty Knies on the back end of the draft, and I think he's going to be a very underrated player to anybody who drafts him on their fantasy team. I expect him to get up to 50 points potentially on the high end, over 150 shots. I would like to see him get over 200 hits as well. He brings the physicality on a nightly basis. I love to see that playing on the line with Auston Matthews and Mitch Marner. So I love Matthew Knies on the back end of the draft.
Love the breakouts. We're going to keep doing this for every single team. Top fives, breakouts, under the radar names. And of course, you know me, Steele, keeper dynasty side of things. Easton Cowan is starting to become a very intriguing name. And obviously,
very relevant now.
Quotes in the media saying he wants to make the team. He will make the team. Those are obvious things for a confident young kid to say. It'll come down to training camp and what he can do. But when you look at that bottom six, Steele, it's not exactly pretty, and it's not exactly loaded with offensive talent aside from maybe Max Domi. And then when you look at what he was able to do last year for the London Knights, 96 points in 54 games. He was the league MVP. Then he follows up a regular season in which he won the MVP with 34 points in 18 games, leading the London Knights to the OHL title as well. He's a winner. He's decorated. And he's offensively gifted and for sure has the NHL talent on the offensive end to make this team. He's just going to have to round out his two-way game, but I think he's going to get a good look under Berube. Let's see what he can do.
It would be very strange to see Easton Cowan playing with Ryan Reeves on that bottom line, but that is a potential breaking out there. Maybe he gets on. He'll probably be on that third line with Max Domi and Calle Jarnkrok, but it would be pretty funny to see Ryan Reeves and Easton Cowan playing with each other on that bottom line. That's it for this episode. The Toronto Maple Leafs, top 5 fantasy targets, breakout candidates. And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Once again, go check out the Locked On Sports Day YouTube channel. Locked On Sports Day is here for you 24/7, covering the top and best sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus the national shows covering every single league. You can find it on the free Amazon Fire TV channel app, so make sure you go check it out on there as well. Have a great day. Good luck with your bets this summer, and we shall see you back here again tomorrow.
Peace.